Fila. It's a bit of a mysterious brand. I mean, everybody knows who they are, but nobody really knows where they come from, or what their story is, or why they virtually disappeared from stores during the first 15 years of the 21st century. They were huge in the 90s, and then they went bust in the 2000s, and now they're trying to make a comeback over the last few years. Because Fila has been surfing the waves of the market, experiencing highs and lows, sometimes being there, sometimes not. People tend to forget how big they used to be. Believe it or not, there was a time where Fila was the second largest basketball shoe retailer in the world, behind only Nike. But what happened? How did they manage to rise to such heights only to fall off and go missing for years? Let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the rise and fall and sorta rise again of Fila. But before we get started, this video is brought to you by us here at TakeFlight214.com. More on us at the end of the video. As for now, please take a second to smash that like button for us, and with that being said, let's jump into the story. Fila was actually founded way back in 1911 Italy by the Fila brothers. Initially, the brand focused on producing quality textiles for people to wear in the Italian Alps. By 1973, they were looking to branch out into the newly booming sports market, choosing tennis as their target aim. They reached out to some of the biggest names in the sport at the time, including Bjorn Borg. Throughout the early 70s and 80s, they were mainly looked at as a luxury European sports brand that catered to tennis. But then, luck would strike. In 1988, they had a few problems with inventory, and it resulted in tons of Fila apparel being released on the American market at discount prices. And don't get me wrong, to be fair, at the time, the guys at Fila thought this was a horrible disaster. What they originally viewed as horrible blunder actually wound up having silver lining to it though. When their stuff hit stores for cheaper prices, it had the opposite effect. It introduced the brand to an entirely new demographic. Fila, being seemingly versatile, picked up on this and leaned into it hard. The early 90s saw the rise of the basketball sneaker in the lexicon of pop culture. Brands like Nike and Reebok were printing money in this sector, and Fila wanted to figure out a way to get a piece of the pie. Throughout the first half of the 90s, they completely shifted their brand perception from an elite European tennis brand into an American casual sportswear line. But if they wanted to get even more eyes on their new lane switch and be taken seriously, they needed a big name star to endorse their sneakers. Their choice? A standout guard from Duke University by the name of Grant Hill. By all measure, Grant looked like the perfect choice for Fila. He was a good kid from professional athlete lineage. He attended one of the most prestigious basketball colleges in the country, and most importantly, he handled his business on the court. So in 1994, Fila signed Grant Hill to a deal before he even left college and had his signature shoe all laid out for him. Hill will go on to be drafted by the Detroit Pistons in the first round, and it wouldn't be long before his on-the-court play reassured Fila that they had made the right decision. In 1995, Hill won the Rookie of the Year award, increasing brand awareness and sales even more. Fila released the Grant Hill 2 basketball shoe to huge commercial success. The Grant Hill 1 had set the stage, but the 2s were a strike of lightning captured in a bottle. They were sleek and minimal looking, save for the giant Fila logo on the side, but overall they perfectly encapsulated the 90s vibe. The decision proved to be a boom for Fila. In the 90s, the basketball sneaker made up half of all of the sales taken in by the company, causing their overall revenue to increase by 15x. The success Fila had experienced in their new lane gave them confidence, and they ramped up production and branched out to other sports. They saw Grant Hill as their number one guy and wanted to secure his talents for the long haul. So only a few years after he turned pro, they re-signed him to a 7-year deal worth $80 million, which at the time was even more than Jordan was getting paid. They opened businesses in Korea and generally entered more and more lofty markets. You know, when I was a kid, growing up in Texas, the old folks had a saying that went something like, the kid's eyes was bigger than his stomach, which was basically a southern way of saying one had bitten off more than they could chew. If only Fila had somebody to pull them aside and tell them that. Throughout all the grandiose planning and rapid expansion, Fila managed to lose sight of what made them the number 2 brand in the basketball market: basketball sneakers. And that's when things took a turn for the worse. 1997 was the highest sales year in history. However, the following year in 98, those figures fell off of a cliff, plummeting by 50%. They were closing stores, laying people off, pumping the brakes on all of the new endorsements that they had been doing. Fila is a classic example of diversification gone way wrong. They started investing their freshly earned money into every somewhat relevant market, but they were moving too fast. They didn't really wait to recoup any of their investment before venturing into something else. And soon, nothing seemed to work. They were leaking money out of their coffers like a broke fire hydrant on a hot summer's day. Eventually, they did a complete 180, sulking back to the European markets, tennis, and higher prices. The early 90s were an interesting moment in fashion history. It was an in-between period where style was completely transforming, granting people with the right idea and capabilities the opportunity of a lifetime. The demand for athletic clothing was huge, so much so that for a while, there wasn't enough companies to fill it, which is the soup that streetwear would later be cooked up in. The earlier days, brands like Supreme, Stussy, Karl Kani, etc., they recognized this and played into it. At that time, the margin of error was flexible, and all you really had to do as a brand was find your audience and stick with them. And this is where Fila failed. They got too happy investing in everything and anything all at the same time. And you know what they say about a jack of all trades? He's usually a master of none, as was Fila. Prime example of a sports company who played the game right in the 90s is Nike. Unlike Fila, they focused on what was working for them: basketball, the NBA, Michael Jordan. To be fair, Grant Hill was never on the MJ level and was never going to be, even if he hadn't suffered a career-altering injury 3 years into the record-breaking deal that we spoke of earlier. The writing was on the wall. Fila virtually disappeared from the American market throughout the entirety of the start of the 2000s. The original ownership would eventually sell off to Fila Korea in 2007 for $400 million. Fila Korea immediately set out to revive the company by leaning into the nostalgia factor that fuels retromania. After all, even though Fila has been around for over 100 years at this point, most people associate them with the 90s. Something about the iconic look of the Grant Hill 2s or the high tops with the strap hanging off the back that just screams 90s at its finest. They even signed Grant Hill to a lifetime ambassador deal in 2018. They also hired new designers and did collabs with brands like Fendi. They've been seen on celebs like Rihanna and Kendall Jenner, and also did Fashion Week in Milan. Will all of this help? My guess is no. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and Fila, they squandered their chance. Can they cash in on trendy retro hype? Sure. I mean, they do have OG aura to them after all. But do I think that it's sustainable enough to restore them anywhere close to where they used to be? I don't. But what do you think? Do you think Fila can rebound from years of absence in the American market? Hit us up in the comment section and let us know. So, now about us at takeflight214.com. We're a collection of artists creating pop culture related pieces for home decor and apparel. We've been in business for over 15 years providing quality art and customer service globally. But rather than asking for donations or money for nothing, I simply propose that you stop by the site and see if you see anything that you like. We've got hundreds of designs to choose from, and we also do custom one-of pieces. So stop by takeflight214.com after this. The link is down below in the description. But before, don't forget to smash the like button on the way out. And as always, if you want to be updated whenever we drop a new episode, then hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. That way you'll be dinged each time a new video drops. We do these once a week. And with that being said, I'm Nate the Great from takeflight214.com signing out. Until next time, peace.